Thank you for joining us for this Good Friday worship service. We want you to know that this service was pre-taped, and so the service you see tonight includes people coming in by themselves into the sanctuary to read their gospel readings and contemporary readings. We made sure that we maintained social distancing through the whole taping of this worship service. We encourage you to continue to maintain social distancing in your everyday life. This is the message we have heard from the Holy One and proclaim now to you, that God is light, and in God there is no darkness at all. If we say that we have fellowship with God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, while we are walking in darkness, we lie and do not know what is true. But if we walk in the light, as our God is light itself, we have fellowship with one another. And Jesus, God's Son, cleanses us from all unrighteousness.
What
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we come to this holy place to watch and pray. We come not to block out the world nor its cries and groaning. Rather, we come to integrate our world into our worship, its people and our prayers. We come because this world, broken and mended, struggling and strong, is the world you love in all its wild diversity. We are a people of incarnational faith. Since you, Jesus, stepped into the muck and mire of the human predicament, we come to you not to escape the harsh realities of life in the world. We come to be empowered by your fiery spirit to immerse ourselves once again into your wounded world, so in need of healing and wholeness, peace and liberation. Come, O Christ of darkness and light, cleanse us, enlighten us, enable us to be your people of peace. Amen.
A reading from John's Gospel. When he, Judas, the one who would betray him, had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you should also love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, where are you going?" And Jesus answered, "Where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow after." Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me? Very truly, I tell you, before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. A reading from the writings of Carter Hayward. There is an awakening of our passion, our capacity to bear upon one another's lives. God has blessed us with this passion, this capacity to participate in whatever is most real, most authentic in our daily life. In truth, this blessing requires us to suffer with others, not because suffering is good for anyone, but because we cannot love well unless we're willing to bear one another in suffering, and to work with one another toward the elimination of the conditions and forces that contribute to violence, oppression, and injustice. This compassion is the essence of the love of God that is with us here and now. Blessed with such passion and compassion, we cannot be indifferent to what greed, fear, and ignorance has done throughout the world.
A reading from Mark. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake for 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a 3rd time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough! The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed in the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
A reading from Matthew. Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." And when he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." And then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." And at that moment, the cock crowed. And then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. And from the writing of Anne Weems, a poem. Over and over again we sit in our courtyards, our mouths speaking what our hearts are full of. We do not know him, do not know him, echoes loudly, emphatically, filling time and space, heaven and earth, and yet the saddest part is when the cock crows, we don't have the ears to hear, to hear, to hear, to hear.
A reading from the Gospel of Mark. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide which each should take. It was 9:00 in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads, saying, "Ah, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him, along with themselves, saying, "He saved others, but he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. A reading from the writings of Martin Luther King Jr. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you murder the hater, but not murder the hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that.
A reading from Mark's Gospel. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3:00 in the afternoon. At 3:00, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard this, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with our sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down."
The shadow of death, the reading from Matthew 27:50 through 56. Then Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. Tombs were also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly, this man was God's Son." Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. And a reading from the writings of Christina Rossi. I am a stone and not a sheep, that I can stand, O Christ, beneath thy cross, to number drop by drop the blood's slow loss, and yet not weep. Not so those women loved, who with exceeding grief lamented thee, not so fallen Peter, weeping bitterly. Not so the thief was moved, not so the sun and moon, which hid their faces in a starless sky, a horror of great darkness at broad noon. I, only I. Yet give not o'er, but seek thy sleep, thy true shepherd of the flock, greater than Moses, turn and look once more, and smite a rock.
A reading from the Gospel of John. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one, because of his fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission, so he came and removed Jesus' body. Nicodemus, who had at first come to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices and linen cloths, according to the burial custom of the Jews. Now there was a garden in the place where he was crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. And so, because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there, and a reading from Edwina Gately. There is not light in my darkness, no spark to break through the void into which with crushing swiftness I am cast without chance to protest. Oh, once I walked in joy and daylight and laughed at the dawn and the night. I delighted in God's presence and skipped in the light of the sun. But now I fall before the sunlight and sob at the memory of joy. The laughter that danced before me echoes and mocks me far away. Where once I walked with powerful stride, I creep and hide in the shadows, and where once I boldly gazed, I shade my eyes in shame. No strength to cry, to sob, enough, unable even to whisper. No more to reach and find a firm hold, only empty chasms around me. No more to stand on ground secure, all is swept away. And I, a naked child in the night, lost, bewildered, alone. No Father now to hold me up, no Lord to strengthen me, no Spirit to breathe a touch of life. In this night of desolation, and the deepest, darkest pain of all shrieks wildly throughout my anguish. The love is gone. The joy is done. Curl up and die alone.
Go in peace. May Jesus Christ, who for our sake became obedient unto death, even death on a cross, keep you and strengthen you this night and forever. Amen.